Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Captain's Chat. My name is Joe Delagrave, one of the captains for USAWR. Today I have Troy McGuirk, who is a gold medalist from the 2000 Sydney Games, development coach, assistant, USAWR coach, development head coach, wheelchair MX, pioneer. Man, a lot of Vesco metalcraft, like the chair whiz. A lot of different titles for this dude. Great guy. A lot of great stories. So we'll get him on and get started. What's up, Troy?
How are we doing today?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, man. So, and as always, everyone, keep your comments coming. It's always fun with the banter. So if you have any questions for Troy or myself, especially right off of training camp, I'm sure there's a lot of questions, but shoot them over to us. So, man, how's it been going? How's the 2021 now? It's so weird, the whole quarantine and pandemic, and I mean, and California has like a lot more measures than maybe some states. But how's it been going for you?
It's going. It's weird not traveling. Not being out and doing things. Quarantine wise here, I've always had a group of friends that I hung out with, and I'm still just hanging out with those guys. So it's not really any really huge difference there. It's just kind of weathering the storm and getting by, and looking forward to 2022. Honestly.
I know, right? Let's get through this year. So it's funny. I had a question that I usually ask people about, like crazy quarantine goals popping up, and then I saw a video that you posted, and you post a couple of them, throughout the year on this new. It seems like it's a new wheelchair MX bombing sport. It's like luge in a wheelchair. Maybe it's luge in a wheelchair. This is a new thing right here. Tell us a little bit about you and the boys bombing hills.
Well, the skate parks were all closed up, and we needed something to do. And one of my buddies, which is a skateboarder, and we used to bomb hills on skateboards and everything. Let's go hill bombing. Let's go hill bombing. And we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then one day we went out, and next thing I know, we're looking for bigger hills. And yeah, we just hit a hill on Sunday that was almost a mile long, about 2.5 minutes. We were doing 29:31 right in there, was what my GPS was saying. It's just something to do to get out,
Yeah.
get your group together, and find somebody that's wanting to drive and hook some ropes to it, tow us back to the top, and so just
Oh, is
something.
that how you get back to the top?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Had
I was
a,
like, that's a long way to go. Like, where do you?
we
How's
had
this work?
we had ropes tied to the back of a truck, and then they just pulled us to the top of the hill and turned around and came back down again. So.
Uh, do you have video of that part?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, maybe I need to watch the whole thing. That because that's I can't imagine like an able-bodied driving by and being like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, the first couple times we did it was in a really neighborhood, and there was literally people coming out with their cameras and videotaping us, and it's like, what are you guys doing? And it's just like, hey, we're just out having fun,
They're just having some fun. Yeah.
nothing to do. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, it's just one of those things. So it's nothing new. It's just something kind of new to us. There's guys out there that have been hill bombing and hit over 60 in a wheelchair hill bombing. So, it's just there's just not a whole lot of it out there. I went down a hill last week that scared me, and I
Yeah.
went back down it. It's too fast. It's too steep. But
What? How's that work with like? I was so when I'm watching, I'm like I'm fascinated. Like, all right, which one of these guys is gonna eat it? And like what I look at it. There's some good pavement out there, but every once in a while I see like the crate, like the manholes, or like, are you guys in your wheelchair MX chairs,
yeah,
or like
we're in our
caster wise?
we're
I
in our
mean,
double
maybe some.
chairs, full frog legs.
Yeah.
And we kind of check the street out a little bit. Make sure there's nothing. I mean, know if there's a big hole or something that we need to pay attention to. But most of the stuff we'll roll right over a rock. You can see it coming. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's hey.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna wreck eventually. It's not gonna be me, but somebody's gonna wreck eventually.
It's gonna be Chad Cohn. He'll see it and be like, "Oh, I can do that," and
Yeah.
then take it to the next level and wipe out and break something. And
I mean,
yeah,
this goes back all the way back to Tampa, the Tampa days when we used to race the parking lot structure. This was way before your time. You weren't even hurt
Ooh,
yet.
I want to hear this story. What? Yeah. So you guys used to do, obviously a lot of people do the structures with pushing up.
Yeah,
So you guys
well,
race down.
yeah, we had a hotel that had like 5 or 6 stories, and we would take the elevator to the top story and get everybody lined up on top and race to the bottom. About 50 yards from the starting line, there was a fence that went across, and there was only room for one chair to go through, so
Yeah.
you could file through there. And then at the bottom, you had to go either left or right because there was a big dip on the bottom. And that was back when we were in our rugby chairs as our everyday chairs. So it's a little bit different. We were just in our rugby chairs, stupid shit like that. And you go to the bar afterwards, the bar before. But that was a different time.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good. That's a good story. That's great. Um, what about like a little bit about obviously we'll get into rugby and your involvement with it throughout, I don't know, 3 decades now. I don't want to make you
Little
too
while.
old, but yeah.
Hey,
Maybe
it's what it is.
maybe 4 decades. Yeah. But what about the community? You said the skate parks were closed, which is an outside activity and kind of sucks. But like, how has that been affected with the community in WCMX?
Well, I mean, for us, we have a pretty tight knit group here in Southern California, and
Okay.
it's the hardest thing it's been is for us to all get together because maybe somebody's worried about the quarantine stuff or people wearing masks. Like one of our favorite skate parks, and that's where it's been the hardest, is they went to an online registration, and
Yeah.
so Sunday night online registration, and they only let 20 people at a time in the park, and so and that park's been filling up really fast, and then you have other parks where there's just so many people there, and the people that are concerned about it. I mean, there's really no, you know, a lot of us are, we want to go have fun, but we also want to not wear a mask and social distance for a sec. You're out there, pushing and doing all of
Yeah.
that. And you get to some places and people just don't really care about, what's going on. And so it's just one of those things where there's fine line is how many people you want in a park. Or with, school where it's at, there's a lot more kids.
Right.
And and the kids don't really pay attention to what's going on. And so after you almost hit your first and second kid, it's almost like I'm going to hit somebody, so I might as well quit now because it's going to hurt them worse than it hurts me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Fair
it's
enough.
it's just a lot of different things we went to a virtual worlds this last year, and everybody submitted a video, and Germany just did a world's championships virtual, and so I kind of almost liked it a little bit better. I didn't have to go out and raise a bunch of money and try to put on a show and do all that good stuff, so it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. It's kind of nice. Yeah. Travel and go and yeah. It's always nice.
But
Yeah. Awesome.
so
Well, let's get into the history of Troy and playing rugby. Like, when did you first start playing? When did you get hurt? What's kind of the
uh,
background story?
I broke my neck in '91, cliff diving down in Puerto Vallarta. I was obviously from Southern California. I got air backed to Sharp Hospital. Sharp Hospital had a rugby team. Um, I mean, I remember laying in the roto bed, kind of thing, halo, and before I went to rehab, and Steve Cow, rest in
Yeah.
peace, came up, and so we got talking and all that good stuff. And he looked at my hands because I don't know if you can play this sport, but there's a sport out there called wheelchair rugby, and I was like, oh, because I think you're gonna have too much function. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm walking out of here. I mean, what do I want
Right.
to?
Right. Exactly.
So, I got rolled into rehab, and they had a video of wheelchair sports, and they had some wheelchair sports magazines. at that moment right there, everything clicked. I forgot all about walking, and they had wheelchair sports. And it was like life after death.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so I was motivated from there on out. I mean, the idea of walking went out the window, and I just wanted to get stronger and start playing. And then when I was still in rehab, went to my first tournament was at Balboa Park, and Sharp was playing. I was in a halo out on a field trip, and met Brent Poppin and met Brent's dad, and
Yeah.
and just said, okay, this is my world, and so I, that's where it all began, and I remember getting classed for my first tournament at in San Diego, and I remember sandbagging it because that's what I was taught to do because I thought I was going to have too much function. My very first tournament, I went from a 2.5 to a 3 within the first 5 minutes of the game, kind of thing. And so, but yeah, so there's where it began.
So did you go out and you just started balling? They're like, wait, like, no, you didn't show us that at all. You're a
Yeah,
3. Yeah.
I just, what else? I mean,
Yeah.
I tell athletes, don't even think about it. I mean, it's stupid. They're going to see it eventually somewhere, somehow. So just go show it. I mean, there's nothing, you're not going to get by with it. And the guys that do get by with have been in the sport for so long, they don't care about them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's one of those things too. Like, well, then there's the people in classes where, like for me, I'm like, it's just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm gonna be a 2, but yeah. So
be a 5 all you want, but you're going to be a 2.
exactly. So like 91, you said
91,
and then 95. It's like relatively short. You started playing at the top level in a short amount of time. How'd that work?
Yeah, I went to my first tryout in 94.
Yeah.
Well, we built Sharp right after the 93 season. That was my first season, kind of like with the Sharp, the Bushwhackers.
Yep.
And then we built Sharp in 93. And that was just a highly motivated team. I mean, I really think that Sharp kind of Sharp Shadow changed the way that teams think about the game today or go to a tournament today.
Yeah.
When I was my very first tournament, we rolled into the hotel at 11 o'clock at night, and the bar was packed. You roll into a tournament at 11 o'clock now, and the bar is empty because everybody's resting for the next game. But
right.
So Sharp was highly motivated, and so I went to my very first tryout there. It was the World Championships, the very first World Championships, '95. And that was because we were trying to get into Atlanta '96 as I was an alternate on that team, and one of the 2s backed out at the last minute, and Reggie was the assistant coach for that team, and we were playing a lot of summer ball.
Okay.
So when he dropped out, him and Terry got together, and Reggie said, "Hey, I've been watching Troy play summer ball. Let's pick him up and take him." And so then that's how I, got in my foot in the door, and started playing USA ball.
Yeah.
Right there. So.
Yeah, Reggie and Terry.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. It's awesome. So 95 happens. 96. Tell us a little bit about, I had Dave on last week, and I didn't realize it, but 96 was an 8-man team, right? And so
it's just kind of like an expression. It was just a demo, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was just one of those. Do we want this sport in the Paralympics?
Yeah.
That was 96.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just took a skeleton team,
right?
There and.
Yeah. Was there, because the tryout, I'm assuming, was pretty big for that, and it was probably a big deal. Like, was there a lot of pissed off people after?
One of them.
Yeah.
Back back then, it was everything was about you had Terry, which was the Tampa coach. So anybody who was on the Tampa team was on that team.
Right.
It was a pretty much a Tampa team surrounded by speed,
Yeah.
and lack of brains. So what you had your brains with Goldie and Joe. So
Yeah.
you have your other guys that were just ran around the court. But
Yeah. So
everybody's
fast.
got their opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And then you go to, so 95, 96 happens, and then World Championships again in 98, which was gold for the US.
Yep.
And that was held was that in Canada or was that?
Yeah, up in Canada, in
Yeah.
Toronto.
Okay. Toronto. How'd that go? Tell me a little bit about that.
That was good. We had a lot of fun. Back then we had a lot of fun. We did a lot of we did a lot of, team outings and
Yeah.
team bonding kind of thing.
It's a lot of team chemistry, a little team
You know,
chemistry building. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
so I mean, it was a different world for me too because I was a player and really good friends with the head coach, and so there was just
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun to be happy back then,
Sure.
which is
Yeah.
the reason why you guys don't have as much fun today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of works like that generationally. Yeah. I know what you guys want to try to do. Don't do it because I've done it. So stop. Yeah.
But
Anyway.
that one was interesting. Gold medal game. We had a lights out. So that was interesting. It was almost one of those things where you could see Canada getting tired, and the game was almost just starting to kind of take away a little bit.
Yeah.
We have like a 10-minute, lights out kind of thing. Everybody gets to grab their breath and all that good stuff. But it was good. I mean, it was a great tournament. It was back in the day where it was USA and Canada were at the top of the realm
Yeah.
all the time, and almost before we started developing. Well, actually, it was before U.S. started developing the rest of the world. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's
another
so
subject.
yeah. 98 happens, and then 2000, which I think for your generation, and then I mean, then 12 years later, London happens, and those are probably the two most pivotal um, Paralympic movement growing games that there's been. 2000 was famous for selling out wheelchair rugby extremely quickly. Obviously, the back and forth game with Australia and Brad and you guys, and so man, take me back to the 2000 Sydney games. Like, I mean, you got the Opera House. It's Australia. You're flying over.
Yeah, Sydney was. I mean, it was awesome because we spent some time there, and it was another one where we trained, but we were out and about, and we really. I mean, it was. I think the coolest thing about Sydney was going downtown, and a little kid comes up to you and taps you on the shoulder and shows you a program and your picture in it, and asks you to sign it. And talking to people, I was talking to a couple in Sydney. We were out in the park one day and
Yeah,
games going on, and met this older couple, and they said, "Oh yeah, we just live like 5 miles from here." And I said, "Well, did you come to the Olympics?" And they're like, "Oh no, we waited. This is a lot better." And we waited to come, and we've been here like every day, and we are like on our fifth day or something like that. So Sydney
yeah,
was just, it was really cool because the whole town knew that they didn't look at you any differently. They knew I mean, there was just it wasn't like at that time in the United States, 2000. It wasn't like it is today with the wheelchairs and a wheelchair in every commercial or almost in every TV show.
yeah, yeah,
There, the wheelchair sports were big. It was just as big as it is now for them. There. So yeah, Sydney was unbelievable. Just the, I've My favorite thing about the Olympics has always been the food court. There's where you really meet a lot of different people from all over the world and see a lot of different, customs and all that good stuff. So, it
It
was fun.
really is eye-opening.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I'd agree. Yeah. Um, no, that's great. So what in the 2000 games, um, I'm assuming you guys are heavy favorites going in, being the world champions and going into 2000 Sydney, heavy favorites. Australia, were they just emerging? Was that a surprise that they were in the final? How'd that work?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, they did pick up Terry Vineyard, so you knew something was there. I mean, at that time, we always figured we were going to play Canada. You just kind of figured that's the way it was going
Yeah.
to go. But at that time we had well, we felt we had like so many weapons. We had so many lineups that could win. I mean, we felt every lineup could win.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, yeah, going into it, it was more of finding the lineup that worked. In the gold medal game, the Steve Pate, Kirkland, Cliffy, lineup, Dan Galoo, Eddie Crouch. I mean, that lineup was our saving grace because we got there and a lot of our other lineups took a dump. They just
Yeah.
didn't go out there and do well, and so it was just one of those things. And it was a great game, a great matchup to watch, which was Brad and Steve.
Right.
So
Right.
definitely an entertaining. That was definitely the best entertainment wise, lineup wise for that game. And yeah, there was that one time where it could have definitely went either way, and
Yeah.
just luckily we weren't handed our ever first loss internationally at that time.
So, and you mentioned Canada being a powerhouse, and do they get fourth? New Zealand wins bronze.
Yeah.
Um, they lost in the crossover and then lost in the bronze medal match.
Yeah, you're going too far back for me. I'd have to go back and think about all that.
I think it's
I've been
funny.
involved in a lot of rugby since
Yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. No, it's kind of funny because I think we did over the pandemic. Gumby did some trivia stuff and went back with some names that even some of the veterans on the team were kind of like scratching their heads, going, "Oh, I don't know." And one of the trivia questions was like, "Who won gold medal or gold, silver, bronze in the 2000 games?" And you always think Canada won bronze because it's like, oh, well, yeah, okay, we know USA, Australia, back in the day, Canada's right there, and like, nope, New Zealand. Um, yeah, just kind of an interesting tidbit there, but
Yeah, because that's when New Zealand went in and shocked everybody in Athens after
and
that.
in '04, yeah,
Yeah.
bronze in 2000, and yeah,
So, and that was, and for New Zealand, that was huge. I mean, the amount of athletes that they have to pick from isn't, we have that on one of our club teams. Or
yeah,
two of our club teams put together.
yeah, no, totally. Um, okay, so to pivot a little bit because there's some other conversation I want to have, but there's so much to talk about with you. So one of the things that from when I first started playing, and there's always been some really good chair setups, chair manufacturers. Um, Obviously, you got your Vesco stuff on. I've got my Vesco stuff. We're Vesco guys, but like and I like relatively recently in the history of rugby, anyway. It's been kind of streamlined, and these chairs are a big deal, and they make a big difference. And what your setup is makes a big difference. And can you tell a little bit about the history since you've been involved of what the chair setups look like, and then just kind of talk a little bit about Vesco as well.
Well, I mean, history-wise, we started with an everyday chair, and then we took an everyday chair and we put bumpers on it, and then we had wings like in Sydney that were like 12 inches, high, and
Was
so
there a rule? Yeah, was there rules for that at that point, or there was nothing?
Canada had these we had these pickers that were like huge, and so we had to keep going up higher on the wings. And the best thing that we did for the sport was you know, get it where it's at today with chair wise,
Yeah.
wing wise, wing height, bumper height, all of that good stuff, and and to be able to have a chair built for the game is that's been a huge game changer. I mean, I remember my very first tournament we were talking about in Tampa. I called the hotel to find out how wide the door was and took camber out of my chair so my chair would fit into the bathroom. Now we're taking chairs. With us to play the game, and I think that's been the biggest thing for our sport and the development of it. Chair setup. I mean, chair setup's huge. I mean, you borrow a chair and then you get a chair that's fitted for you, and you figure out what you like, and you're able to tweak that chair, upholstery wise, to get you comfortable in it and make you the best athlete you could be. That's all chair setup right there.
Yeah.
Knowing, just because Joe sits one way doesn't mean Troy sits that way, and doesn't mean that this guy sits that way. So it's finding somebody with your similar function, your similar classification, getting into their chair and then tweaking that. I mean, I don't think I've ever ordered the same exact chair. I'm always changing something to try to get better or try to improve, something. I'm always trying to watch a player and go, if you did this, you'd get a lot better. It's just a thing of like a couple of years ago, we lowered Chad's knees. It was easier for him to get the ball out of his lap, and he didn't need his knees and his chin. His
Right.
helping him any one bit. So, but it did make it easier for him to get his ball in his lap. So, watching players and giving them an idea. Some players will take it, and some players want to have nothing to do with what you're thinking. So, but
yeah. What? When did Vesco first come around? So, like, I think like the first Vesco chair that you think of is you think of Mark's chair and Murderball. I think he had a Vesco on that. I know he switched to Melrose at some point, maybe in the movie still, but you see the yellow. It's all red now, but it was yellow back in the day, and you see the yellow wheels and the guards, and I think even for Athens they painted some they had like some like lighter blue colored spoke guards or something like that. But
came into play when I was kind of semi-retired. There was after 2001, I was off. I took like 4 years off. From almost all the wheelchair sports is right after I played 1 year after Sydney, and went to change gears and went to wakeboarding and off-roading and stuff like that. But and then they came out when I came back on the scene, came back to San Diego. They were a couple of years into the game, and it was the first chair that I got back into was that, and we've had a relationship ever since. And them being part of Sharp, and that's where I went back and started my coach. When I came back, I started coaching. From my little thing, and tried to player coach, and it just didn't work, and so I just went right into the coaching aspect of it.
Player coaching's got to be one of the craziest things to do. I know I played for one for a long time, but man, it's that line gets blurred pretty easily.
It does, and it was the hardest thing is to coach after you already been in the game. It's easy to coach before you go into the game, but after you've been in the game, it was like really hard for me to coach, and it just got to the point where it was I didn't want to get in my chair because I was getting some. I remember playing. It might even be it was Phoenix, and Chad was eating my lunch. I mean, I was already 40 plus years old, but he was eating my lunch, and I just went, you know what? I'm done. Got this one out here that's beating me up. I'm like, going, oh my god, payback's a bitch.
Oh, that's great.
I enjoy it. The coach is perfect.
Frenchie on here, he always has something to say. word is Brad is trying out for his Tokyo team. No, he's trying out for the. They're gonna race again. You would have dominated all these guys maybe, but after Four Nations in 2019, the coaches did a race around the Lakeshore track, and it was it it was Dubberly, Kevin, Gumby, and Paul from GB. And so we started out, we're all taking bets, and we're like, well, we know who's coming in last. But Gumby was pretty high on his smart drive, but someone shut it off right before the race.
Perfect.
And so they start going around, and we're thinking like, all right, Kevin's just raced. He's a former racer. Like he went to the University of Illinois. Anyone goes there is fast, right? Like whatever. And then we're like, I don't know, Dubberly might. He's got a lot of function hidden in there. And so it was neck and neck, and I think Dubberly ended up winning. I can't remember. What's that? Yeah, he just picked up his chair instead of running with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I'll beat those guys backwards.
Oh, Lee's mom says hi. What's up? What's up, Denise? Make sure Lee's eating well right now and training well. If you're still down in Tucson, but no, I think that's what Dubberly's gonna do. They're gonna get another race. I know Gumby's trying to soup up his smart drive to see if he can get rocking and rolling.
He doesn't remember the last time he bet somebody about the mile. What was that? A 35-minute mile?
That was
35 minutes.
That was yeah. That was he dressed the part though. He put on the sleeves. I'm like, you don't need sleeves for this. You do not need sleeves. We all crack Cokes.
Trying to get him into the rugby chair, and oh my land, that was funny.
Oh, that was good times. Yeah. Yeah, Ed's setting the pace for him.
Yeah, Ed set the pace.
It was great. You talked a little bit about coaching, and can we talk a little bit of the differences between coaching in big games and playing in big games? What's like from your mindset, being in some of those big games as a coach versus a player, and what that mindset is?
Well, player's mindset was a lot easier because it was easier to make decisions on the court and change things when you wanted to change things. And we all know that as a player, and we all know that as a coach, the players do that. It's just the way it is. As a coach, if you're winning, everything's great, but if you're losing, you're not doing what I want you to do. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you change, or do you change? And and even winning a game as a coach, you're always going back and it's, what could I do differently, or what could I? And as a player, I really don't remember doing that a whole lot. It was a win, so that was pretty much the end of it.
Right.
But loss, you dwelled on no matter what, player or a coach. I would definitely say I prefer to play him than coach him. But everybody's got to do one thing or the other.
Yeah, everyone's got their role.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I did have fun winning. I didn't have fun losing. That's the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's always interesting too, because I think for my generation or newer players, obviously you coach with Coach Sue, with the development team that yielded quite a few athletes that have been on the team for a while now, and have had major success with Newbie and Josh Wheeler and Chuck Melton, and I'm probably leaving some off, but and then he coached. Of course, he coached Lee. You coached Lee and Corey down at Sharp for a year.
Corey,
Yep.
My hands on
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's interesting to be able to kind of hear from the playing days and what that looked like into the coaching, and now still in the game in a different role with you're the guy that's always got his tape measure out, looking at this and that and that and that and that. What are, when someone gets a new chair, well, personally, like I love getting new chairs, but I hate setting them up. I'm just like, oh, I got to do this and this and this. Like, what are tips for setting up chairs? You get a new chair and you're going, well, Troy, it's not as fast as my old one, or I can't move like this, or I can't. It seems like there's a lot of tweaking. What's your?
I mean, knowing if somebody could tell me, what they're feeling and what the differences they're feeling, I could usually give them a pretty good idea on where they need to go with it. And so, yeah, it's just listening to them and knowing. I mean, I know if you're falling forward, we need to either push your butt forward or sling your backrest or, something like that. If you're not getting enough wheel, we could sling the rear end of it and the bottom of it and sling you down further. I need to be higher up. You could add a little bit of a cushion to there. And so it's just, listening to people and being patient to try. I mean, I know for a fact when I get a new chair, it's at least a month or two before I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna stop, fiddling with this or stop tweaking it. I've got it to where I want it. It might be a little tweak, and you still got to let your upholstery break in on a new chair, and so it's gonna take a little while.
Yeah.
And only making like one adjustment at a time. Don't go in there and change 5 things at one time and go, nothing worked, because you don't know
Right.
if one thing worked or another thing worked. So, making one adjustment at a time is the big key. And, calling me or calling somebody and saying, hey, this is what I'm up against, and asking for advice. That's another big one, instead of just trying to figure it out yourself. There was so many times this year here where I'm talking to somebody and they're kind of telling me what their problem is. I go and I move their upholstery back 1.5 inches, and they get into it and they're like, I've been playing this chair for 2 years like that, and it's so much better. And it's just like, it's all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so there's a lot of simple fixes if you know the question to ask, or you're willing to ask, or you're willing to play with your chair and adjust it. I mean, there's really a whole lot to adjust. All we have is upholstery. But I mean, I can remember spending 2 months on one of Andy's new chairs on just adjusting upholstery. We were adjusting like a 1/4 inch at a time, playing a half a practice, going adjusting a little bit more, and it took a little while, and we finally got it. But it's all about making sure that you have the push and all the function that we're trying to generate by sitting into ergo or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's trying to get all that function out of it. But yeah, it's just being patient and playing with it and taking your time and really thinking about, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is why this is doing that, kind of thing.
Yeah. Tony just got a new chair.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Awesome. When you're going around internationally, nationally, in a pre-pandemic world, and what's probably the biggest thing people miss on their chair setups?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it's pretty dialed in. I don't think that really people miss a whole lot. I think more of it depends on the change that they make. So, like if somebody goes from a non-ergo chair to an ergo chair, that's a huge change, and
Huge.
they
Yeah.
might jump in that chair and go, "Oh my God, what was I thinking? And how can I, fix this or fix that?" But for the most part, the chairs are people get into enough of other people's chairs now, I think, that
Yeah.
when they do order a chair, there's not really a whole lot of mistakes. And if it is a mistake, it's usually something that can be solved with the upholstery, or get them close enough that they know next time that this is what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Most people that order their first chair, 9 times out of 10, they're going to change something on their second chair. Even though that, me and you are sitting down with them and we think we're getting you dialed in, there's going to be something about that very first chair that you're going to change.
Yep.
You probably didn't get consistent on the same chair for probably your third, maybe your fourth chair, to where you're going, okay, I've got it dialed in, make this chair again and again and again and again.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. Kelly, happy birthday. Hope you have a great day. Chuck Melton's wife there, Kelly. Yeah. And Troy, so you're on the national team from like 95 through 2000.
Till 2000, yeah.
And then a coach in development in what, 2009?
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And then was with them, and then went with USA for a couple of years. Yeah, if I had to do it all over, I would have stuck with the developmental. That was a lot more fun. I like the developmental part of it. The development was awesome. You have a sponge instead of somebody you're just trying to give an idea on what they could do to get better, or just trying to give a game plan to and to go out to perform, go out and perform kind of thing. They actually did what you asked them to do.
Hey, what are you trying to say?
Hey, I was a player, man.
It's awesome.
I had it back then too.
Yeah. How important? One of the things that I think we talk about a lot as athletes with our chair setups is center of gravity. Like, how important is the CG?
Now,
and it's kind of a tricky measurement too, because based on upholstery.
Yeah, and CG to me is like the biggest one, because it's a fine line. Because like low pointers, they set up their CG a little bit because they want to ride. Some of them want to ride on that rear anti-tip, or they want to be able to get that front end up. And I know there's some high pointers out there that have the big 20 wings, and they like a little bit more CG because they can lift that front end up and try to knock off that pick. Your chair is set up to have the front 2 wheels and the rear 2 wheels on the ground. So if you could get your center of gravity set up to where when you're pushing, that front end is staying on the ground, is ideal, perfect world. So, most of us with our upholstery slung out and everything else, we're 6 inches, almost 7 inches of center of gravity. And so looking at your upholstery and knowing that you're going to have your upholstery slung out, most chairs are right around the 5.5. The biggest thing you don't want to do is have it to where you get hit, you're on your rear anti-tips, and you're just going to sit there and spin out.
Yeah.
So to me, you start losing control of your chair with your hands off your wheels, with the more center of gravity you have. So if you could find that point where your rear wheels are on the ground, your chair is stable when you're taking a hit, and your hands are off your wheel, is your best center of gravity position.
Yeah.
And that's also with upholstery. If you're a little bit tippy on your center of gravity, you can always tighten that up a little bit, and you might not need a whole lot. A lot of people, I got to tighten my upholstery up an inch. It might be a 1/4 inch on every strap that picks up that fine line. And so for me, it's finding that fine line of keeping my front end on the ground, or being able to lean back and get my front end off the ground if I want to. But I want to be able to take a hit and not spin out and fall back into my head. So there's your fine line of center of gravity. But it is the toughest. For me, it's the toughest one. I know athletes out there. I mean, I think Will Grew probably did the best setup. He had 4.5 inches of center of gravity, and his backrest totally all the way out to where he was right around 6.5, and he hit hard. He had his front end on the ground. He was probably the fastest I mean, he's a class 2, but I mean, I think he was still faster than a lot of 3s and maybe some 3.5, a lot of
Yeah,
3.5.
Will in his like at his peak. It's if you want to see how fast, like 2008, 2010, him in the Paralympics in Beijing and then at World Championships. It's silly how fast he was. Yeah,
And he was really one that really was started playing with his center of gravity that way, going, okay, I want my center of gravity here, but I want to be able to sling my upholstery all the way out so I have that pocket, between my posts to sit in. And so a lot of guys do that now, and they go, well, I want 5.5 inches, and they've got too much.
yeah.
They're on their rear anti-tips, and you can tell that they're going to throw a ball and they're going to go one way or the other. And you just don't have a good pass. There's just so many things about having too much center of gravity.
Yeah, there's good squirrely and there's
Yeah.
detrimental to your team squirrely. So
But,
yeah,
myself, if you're if you got some thick legs, you're not tightening your upholstery up, you're right around 5.5. If you're going to sling your upholstery, I think you need to be right around 5. Depending on how much weight you have up front, depending on where your feet are at too. Because if you have your feet all the way forward, that can make the front end heavier. So you might be able to get a little bit more center of gravity with that setup.
yeah,
Us old school guys, we had our feet back by the camber tube, our heels, and so our front ends were a lot lighter, and it was just a lot different.
yeah.
So it depends on how you're sitting in your chair, what kind of push stroke you want, what's your classification, stuff like that. Class 3s and stuff, I want them to be both hands up in the air and be able to take a hit and not worry about flipping out or anything else. So
I mean, I like growing in the game and the amount of force some of these athletes that are threes, 3.5s can bring on a hit. I mean, obviously, I'm blessed with height, and I'm around 200 pounds, so like I'm a bigger athlete on the rugby court. But my biggest thing is like I want a chair set up that when Riley or Bond or Chuck in club ball or some of these other big hitters across the world, Zach, are hitting me, I'm able to be stable. I'm not flying around doing a 360 after a hit, or I'm falling down all the time. And so like it was a chair set up to be stable.
yeah, and that's right there. That's length of chair, how long your chair, the shorter your chair is, and knowing how to take a hit.
Yeah.
If you see the hit coming and you lean forward, you know where you're going.
I think that was back in what you guys were down in Brazil. Well, no, not Brazil. Was it Brazil or was it Argentina with the development team where you taught Josh how to take hits and put a belt on? And
Brazil.
yeah.
Yeah, that was Brazil. Josh was a project then.
Yeah. 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 And now look at him. So
It's knowing how to take a hit. I mean, I come
yeah.
from the days. I mean, I was getting hit by Steve Pate. He still probably would be one of the biggest guys in the sport today. And yeah, did my whole body go into a spasm getting hit by him? But he didn't knock me over.
Yeah.
And it's just knowing either to bend an axle or lean back, and absorb it and laugh about it.
Instead of being on some YouTube clip somewhere.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So we're going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions that are
Okay.
rugby specific. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much, Troy, for
No worries.
all the knowledge and history. And man, it's awesome. Could go on forever. Okay. Let's see. What is one thing that the game needs to change to make it better? Rapid fire.
Start a spinal cord league.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. What is one thing that chair manufacturers like Vesco are going to do like in the near future to continue to grow the game as far as like a tweak to chairs? What's the next big thing?
Well, I don't think we have to do anything yet. If anything, it's going to be a ball holder. I don't think that there's a whole lot to do out there, and it's still got to get any. Yeah, even like I'm on the IWF chair spec committee, and there hasn't been any new proposal or anything new come about.
Yeah,
So the best thing that we could do is just work on getting our product and you on our product as fast as possible.
perfect. Perfect. Tips for athletes that want to make it to the next level.
Be a student of the game.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Um, you
Yeah.
know, do the video work, do the rule work, the casebook work, the classifications, know everything about the game, and playing it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And being in shape,
Being in a good shape.
in a good shape. Not the
I
round.
always tell people to go watch Steve Nash play basketball. Old clips of Steve Nash, and he was a master of creating mismatches based on pick and rolls. And like our game is all about pick and rolls, and it's all about creating mismatches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think knowing that and studying players. When I first started playing, I had a handful of players, and they weren't all in my class. And I studied them.
Yeah.
You know, Dave Goldie, class 2 back in the day. I studied everything about him. He was just, he was a class 2 wizard with the ball and the key. And, so he was like one of my favorite players. And Mark Hansen. And, there's a lot of players
Yeah.
and I didn't take everything that they did, but I took little bits and pieces from all those players and made my own game.
Yeah. Same way. Same way. I mean, when I first started playing, obviously the big names are Will and Brian and Andy and in my class, and Derek was starting to come up, and Seth and obviously Nick Springer, a whole different animal with the two class. But and everyone's like, they're like, oh, look at the comparisons with Brian. But the Andy was the one that like I looked at and I'm like, this guy is extremely smart in what he does and crafty and shows his speed when he needs to and kind of lulls you to sleep when he needs to. And but yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, like taking bits and pieces from people and then realizing too, like I was never going to be Will or I was never going to be Derek with maybe their function. And you had to make it into your own and carve out a little niche. But no, that's great advice, man. Give me your favorite memory in wheelchair rugby club version, favorite memory in wheelchair rugby USA version, and can I have it player and coach version? It's a lot going on there, but I gotta hear some stories.
As a player, as on USQRA, it would have had to been the first national title.
Okay.
Knocking off Tampa for their three-peat, knowing they had three-peat T-shirts and ready to come out and all that.
Whoa! So they had the shirts ready to go, and you guys knocked them off. Was this in the early '90s? Was this not? Like, yeah,
Around
that's a
90.
great story, man. That's fantastic.
95-ish, I think it was, and then be able to come back the next season because our national title game for that was on a rubber floor, and we went from a wood floor for qualifying to a rubber floor in the finals, and Terry just went berserk. And then the best part about that was we came back. The very first tournament was Best of the West the next year, and it was a hard wood floor, and we beat them there, and so it's one of those things. And so that was a moment that kind of a turning point in Sharp's career and mine and all of that, knowing that we could be successful consistently.
Yeah.
Having that right there. And
Yeah.
so, and a coach was this, the same thing is, for a coach, I think it was more of, helping a player develop. It was we won some national titles with Riley and stuff like that, and those were really cool. But working with some players and having them go on to Team USA and and be great players. That's always fun as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, Play wise for me internationally would have to be Sydney right before halftime.
Okay.
Had a half court pass, pretty much crossed the key pass for a 1 second play to score the goal right before going into halftime.
Oh, awesome.
So that was really cool. Coaching wise, just developing and watching players get better and make Team USA, and looking at them today and being still pretty good athletes and still room to grow. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for all you've done in our community. The past however many years now, as a coach and development athlete, and then also with putting guys in chairs that fit them over at Vesco. And um, man, just can't thank you enough for that. And always always having a smile on your face when you're telling a story. It's fantastic, and I just really appreciate it. And you and all the boys at Vesco really appreciate all you do for us and for me. And yeah, appreciate it, man.
Cool. No worries, man.
Hey,
Always, you guys want to talk rugby chairs, anything else, you know where to find me.
awesome. Yeah, check them out at Gray Ghost _67, at Troy MC67 on Twitter. Check out Vesco and the boys over at VescoWheelchairs.com, at Vesco Wheelchairs on Instagram. And as always, head over to USAWR.org to find out more about USAWR. You guys all have a great week. We will be back next Tuesday at the time. Absolutely, Kelly, amazing. Thanks for all yeah, absolutely. And again, happy birthday, Kelly. Have a great day. Take care of that old man over there, Melton. All right. See you guys. Have a great day.